Hi, thanks for stopping by. I've got kind of an interesting story to share with you today. As I've thought about this, I've come to the realization that we don't get to pick our past, nor do we get to pick our ancestors. And sometimes there's things that come up that you think, boy, that's really interesting. And that's a story I want to share with you today. We've talked about some of the things that have gone on in our ancestors' lives, and this is one that I found to be quite intriguing. And it has to do with my maternal great 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 grandfather. And his name was Daniel Burbank. And Daniel Burbank was born in the late 1700s, and actually found a reference that he actually fought in the War of 1812. I thought that was kind of interesting. But he married a lady by the name of Margaret Pynchon, and a month or two ago we talked about the Pynchon family a little bit, and that was kind of a fun thing. But shortly after the birth of their third child, Margaret Pynchon, who was my third great grandmother, she passed away and left Daniel with a newborn and two other children, which he was able to get help with some of his other family. I think it was a sister that took in some of those kids. Well, Daniel remarried, and he married a lady who had a widow with four boys and two girls. And one day, Daniel, and I can't find the origin of this story, but apparently there was a very bad person who got into a fight with Daniel and severely injured his hand to the point where it became horribly infected and was withering away. And it turns out that his second wife conspired with the doctor to basically saw, hey, this is a chance for us to get rid of Daniel, take all of his property, and we can kind of run off and start a new life on their own. So they worked very hard, this doctor and his second wife, to see that he was not given proper treatment. Well, my great great grandfather was got involved with this, and that is Daniel Marcus Burbank, and he was Daniel's son. And at one point, he came in to the story, and this second wife and the doctor were in the process of preparing to actually amputate Daniel's hand, with the thought that they could basically kind of use that as the excuse he would pass away and they'd be on their own. Well, Daniel Marcus, my great great grandfather, didn't like this at all. And let me quote in his words what he said. This is a quote from Daniel Marcus Burbank, my great great grandfather. He was at home, he being quite feeble, having lost the use of his right hand by a felon and brutal care of his wife and doctor. And they're talking about my great 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 grandfather, Daniel Burbank. They sought to destroy him and take away his means, and made all preparations one morning to cut off his hand. When I asked him if he was against having it done, he being very poor in health and confined to his bed, he said, "My son, I don't know what is best." I replied, "Don't, Father, don't have it cut off." The doctor then told me to shut my mouth, and the old woman clenched me by my hair of the head and ordered me out of the doors. I then said, "Father, they shan't cut off your hand." And this is the point that I think, well, of course, the whole thing's interesting, but what he says is he went and got his fowling gun and chased the doctor and his stepmother out of the house. Now, I didn't know what a fowling gun was, so I looked it up, and I actually have here, not the original, but a fowling gun. This isn't a little pea shooter. This is a picture of a fowling gun from the early 1800s. And you can see that this could be something that could be quite intimidating if you were in the process of trying to cut off your soon-to-be ex-husband's hand and take over all of his property and wealth. So anyway, Daniel Marcus chased them off, and then he was actually able to call in his brother-in-law and they took him, and he was nursed back to health. However, the reports were that that hand never healed. Finally, it just became nothing but skin and bone. He went to live with his, I guess it was his daughter, for quite a while, and then went back. Let's see, when did this take place? I guess it's sometime later. It says in the fall, and this is Daniel Marcus quoting again. In the fall of 1832, he went back to his home farm. His wife had since remarried. Now, it doesn't say whether she married the doctor or she married somebody else. And his property was all used up. This second wife of Daniel's, her new husband was gone at the time when he got there, and he said that he went up to the house, found that the man had left. His wife urged him to take breakfast. This he refused, but he did take a cup of coffee. And then he went back into town to return to the hotel where he was staying, and he took to vomiting, it says. He lived another 3 or 4 days and then died in October of 1832. It was said by the neighbors and doctors that this woman had poisoned him to death. His body was taken to the town of Exeter, which is in Illinois, and was buried by the side of his first wife, Margaret Pynchon, on a very high rolling ridge. Kind of an interesting story. I've not been able to find if there were any court proceedings against his second wife. I don't know if there was any justice that was ever done for this wife and the doctor. So I thought, well, okay, what's the lesson we can take here? I'm going to go with let's stick with the word of wisdom and let's not drink coffee, because you will never have to worry about anyone poisoning you to death if you do not drink coffee. You might have to worry about some other things, but at least coffee's off the table. So, again, kind of an interesting story, one that I debated even sharing, but I thought, well, it's a part of the past, and I think it's kind of interesting. I will say that Daniel and the second wife did not have any children together, so we did not descend from the second wife. We are descendants of Margaret Pynchon, who lived a very faithful life, and anyway, she didn't kill Daniel, so I guess that's the good part of that. So anyway, short and sweet. Thanks for stopping by. We'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.